Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we'll cover the fundamentals of testing with Python and Pytest. This is a part of a multi-series video where we'll cover more advanced features such as patching, mocking, fixtures, as well as integration tests. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video and I'll show you what I mean. So we are inside our IDE, so we're going to start by browsing our project. And here we have some utilities, and here we have a converter. So this is a distance converter. It converts from a specific unit to another unit. So we give it a value to convert, the starting unit, and the unit we want it to be converted to. So here we can see that we've got miles to kilometers and feet, kilometers to miles and feet to miles and kilometers. So, and then we basically get the from unit to unit, and then we multiply by the value. So we want to make sure that our functionality works as expected. So to do that, we're going to write some tests. But before that, we're going to install Pytest. So we're going to head to our terminal. And here I've got my virtual environment activated. I'm using Poetry. You can use pip with a virtual environment. That's a choice of yourself. So I'm going to do and say Poetry, add Pytest, and I'm going to add it as a development dependency. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let's try and use Pytest. So we're going to say Pytest, and then we're just going to try and run it. And it says no tests run. And the reason is because we don't have any tests. So we're going to start writing some tests. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a new Python package and I'm going to call it tests. So we're going to create that and we're going to try and keep the structure of our project. So here we have utils and then converter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another Python package and I'm going to call it unit because these are our unit tests, because in the future we're going to do integration tests as well. And then I'm going to create another one and I'm going to call it utils. Excellent. And here we're going to create another file. It's going to be a Python file. And we can call it test converter. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start writing our test. And the way we do this is just by creating a normal Python function. So I'm going to say define, and here I'm going to say test distance converter. And then I'm going to say converts units. Okay, so here I'm just going to say pass and explain something to begin with. So a couple of things here. So first of all, our test function needs to start with test. Okay, if it doesn't start with test, it means that Pytest will not pick it up. So let's just try and test that. So I'm going to assert. Assert is the way you do tests with Pytest. So basically you're saying, I expect something to be something. So for example, in its simplest form, we could say assert 1 is equal to 1. Okay. So this basically means I expect that 1 is equal to 1. If we want to make it more semantic, let's say number 1, and then we'll say number is equal to 1. And this could be coming from a function. So we'll basically run a function that based on some input, we expect some output. But this one is just very simplistic. So I'm going to go to the terminal, and what we did before, I'm just going to do the same thing. So I'm going to say Pytest. And you can see it says 1 passed. So it basically found the test and run it. However, if I remove this here, and it's a normal function, and we try and run it again, see, it says no test run. So there's a prerequisite that this is prefixed with test. So now let's try and test our function, okay? So let's start from miles, okay? So here I'm gonna say from miles, okay? And here I'm going to say assert. And then let's call the function. The function was called distance converter, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna import that. And here it needs 3 arguments. It needs the value, it needs from a unit, and 2 units. So as a value, I'm going to say 1, okay? And then from unit, let's say, I don't know, let's say from miles, yeah, we said miles. And then we're going to say 2 unit, we don't want miles, let's say we want kilometers. So we want to assert that the result of this is equal to something, okay? So what is that something? So we want to basically know what 1 mile equates to in kilometers. So to do that, let's go here. So we've got 1 mile, 2 kilometers. So here we've got 1.609344. So I'm going to copy that value. We're using this website called Digital Dutch. Okay, and I'm going to assert that it's equal to that. Okay, so let's run this test. It's passed. So it means that our function works correctly. Okay, so let's duplicate this a couple of times, basically only 1 time, and we want to do feet as well. So let's go back here. Let's get feet. And we get 5280. We don't need the zeros. Okay. And let's run this again. And it still passes. So it means we got it right. Okay. If we look at our converter here, it only supports miles, kilometers, and feet. So let's just copy this and do it for the other units as well. So let's say from kilometers, and here we're going to say kilometers, we're going to say miles, and here we're going to say kilometers, and here we're going to say what do we want? We want from kilometers to feet, correct? Okay, so we need to find what kilometers to miles are. So we're going to go here. We're going to say kilometers, yes, to miles. Let's find miles. There you go. And this is what it is supposed to be. So we're going to put that there, and we want also to feet. So let's go and grab feet. Okay. We're going to input that, and we're going to run it. Okay, it still passes, which is good. It means our function is working correctly. Okay, so now we're gonna do feet. So we're gonna grab this and we're going to duplicate it. Okay, so we're gonna say from feet, and then here we're just gonna say feet, and here we're gonna say feet, and we want miles to kilometers. Okay, so let's go and grab these values. So we will need feet to miles and feet to kilometers. Okay, so we've got here, let's go and find feet. Okay, feet to miles, and that's what we have. So we're going to paste that, and then we're going to go feet to kilometers. There it is. We're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it here. Okay, so let's run the test again. Okay, so everything works as expected, which is what we want. Okay, however, we might have an issue, okay? So we might have an issue where if we want to convert from the same unit to the same unit, which doesn't actually make sense, but we want to make the converter a bit smart. In this case, it's not going to work, okay? So if I say from, I'll say same output, okay? So same output. Let's just copy one. Let's copy both of these. So we're going to say from feet to feet, okay? And we want this to be 1, okay? Because from the same unit to the same unit should be 1, okay? Here we're going to say kilometers. This should be 1, and then I'm going to duplicate that and cover miles as well. Okay, so this should technically work. So if we run it, it doesn't. It says unsupported operand type for star and none type. So what is happening? So what is happening is that we're getting from unit, okay? So we're getting here from here. So for example, for the first one, we're getting feet and then feet, okay? So it goes here, it finds feet, and then it doesn't find feet within here. So that becomes none, and it tries to multiply none with our value. So that's not gonna work. So what we wanna do in that case is basically cover that case as well. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say if from unit, okay, this is not what I wanted, is equal to unit, so that we have the same units, we're just gonna return the value itself, okay? So let's see if this works now. Okay. 1 second, what have we done here? Okay, we've made a mistake. I don't know why this happened. This should be like that. So if the from unit and the to unit are the same, you should return the value, okay? So let's just run that, and the test has passed, okay? So going back to the test, we want to cover another scenario, okay, where we want to let the user know or throw an exception if they're using an unsupported distance unit, okay? So what I want to do here is I want to create another test, and I'm going to say test, and then I'm going to say converter, and then I'm going to say unsupported unit, okay? So here we want to make sure that if we use an unsupported unit, we raise an exception, okay? And the way we do that is Pytest has a helper. So it's got this context manager, okay? So we're going to say with Pytest, and then we're going to say dot raises, and here is the exception that it will raise, okay? And I wanted to raise an exception called unsupported distance unit, okay? And then we're gonna say, when does that happen? Well, it happens when you try to convert for an unsupported unit. So let's just put any value there, and then here we're gonna say from unit, kilometers is fine, and then to unit we're gonna say I don't know, let's say centimeters, okay? So this should throw an exception, okay? So let's import Pytest, and then this one we cannot import it because it doesn't exist. So unsupported distance unit, so we're gonna create it inside here. So I'm going to say class unsupported distance unit. It extends the base exception, and then here we're just going to do pass. We're not going to do anything. All right. So let's have a look what's happening here, and let's run this test here. Okay, we're going to run all of the tests. It says, okay, we haven't imported it. Let's import it. All right, great. So let's just run the test again. And it says unsupported operand type for star, non-type, and int. Okay, so it's a similar thing that's happening to what was happening before, but now we've got to basically handle it here. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we've got to specify the supported units. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to say what the supported units are. So I'm going to say supported units. And then what are the supported units? Well, the supported units are the units that we've got specified here. Okay, so essentially miles, kilometers, and feet. Okay, so those are the keys of our dictionary. So the way we do it is we say unit dot keys, units dot keys. All right, and that basically gives us our list of supported units. Okay, so we're going to say if from unit not in supported units, we're going to raise our exception. So we're going to say raise unsupported distance unit, and then here you can put whatever you want. I'm going to say I don't know, let's say from unit and just say from unit is not supported. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with to unit. Okay, so we're going to say to unit, and here we're going to say to unit. We're going to change it from here as well to unit. We could have done this as part of the same if statement, but the reason I did it is to be able to know where the issue came from. So here we're specifying the unit that created that exception as well. Okay, so if we run this again, our test passes. And why does it pass? It passes because when we call this function with this value, this from unit and this unsupported unit, we raise an exception, which is what this thing here is about. Okay, so let's just copy this and let's try and do it with let's say from unit. We're gonna okay, so we're gonna put the unsupported here, so from CM here, and here we're gonna say miles, because we want to see that it works both ways. Okay, so if we run it again, it passes, which is what we actually want. Okay, so here, as you can see, we've covered all these scenarios. Okay, but it seems like there is some repetition here. Okay, you might be okay with that, you might not. What I'm trying to say is there's a kind of easier way and more compact way to do all of this, and this is with parametrize. Okay, so let's just write a new function here. We're going to call it test distance converter, and then we're going to say converts units. So essentially the same as the other one, parametrized. Okay, so this is a normal test function. Okay, so we would say assert, and then we'll say distance converter, and then here we're gonna pass the value, the from unit, and the to unit. So we're gonna accept this from here. So we're gonna say value, and then here we're gonna say from unit, and then here we're gonna say to unit, and then here we're gonna say expected value. Okay, so where are these values coming from? Well, they're coming from the parametrized they're coming from the parametrized decorator. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's pass them here first of all. So we're gonna say value, and then here we're gonna say from unit, and then we're gonna say from unit, and then we'll say to unit. Okay, and then we're gonna assert that it's the expected value. Okay, so let's decorate our function. Okay, so we're gonna say Pytest dot mark dot parameterize, And this one takes two arguments. The first one is a string and the second one is a list, okay? The string is the name of the parameters that are going to be picked up from the list of tuples. So this one is a list of tuples, okay? So it's a tuple, and then we're going to pass the actual values that we want to be mapped to these values here, okay? So for you to understand, let me just start by saying value, comma, and if you see this is a string and I'm not actually separating these strings, this is one big string, and this is how this function works. Okay, so I'm going to say from unit and then comma to unit, and then here I'm going to say expected value. Okay, so whatever the names you give here are going to be mapped to this tuple and to these values that are going to be passed here. So to get an example, if we wanted to use this first one, we would say 1, then we would say miles, and then we would say kilometers, and then we would say finally would get this value here. Okay, so if I copy that and put it in this tuple and we head to our terminal, okay, so if we go here and we say Pytest, you see this passes. Okay, so we could do this for all of these values that we have here, but just to save some time, because I think you understand the point, I'm going to copy them. So I'm going to copy them. Okay, so these are exactly all of these we have covered. So 3 from here, 5, 7, and 9. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so this function here, essentially what happens is it runs for each iteration of the tuple. So as many tuples as there are, it will run. So this will run 9 times. Okay, so let's try and see if this works. Okay, so it works, and as you can see here, it says 11 tests passed. However, we have 1, 2, and this is 3. Okay, but this third one counts as 9. So 9 and 3, 9 and 2 is 11. Okay, so this basically saves you the kind of space of rerunning tests within the same function, and they're a bit more robust because they're separate tests rather than being one test like this one is. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to cover is the grouping into classes. Okay, so here we could go and say class, and then I'm going to call this test distance converter. And then I'm going to tab all of these functions here, and we need to give them one more argument. So here I'm going to say self, same for this one, and let's have a look. This one will be self as well. Let's organize a bit our files. Okay. So what have we done here? We've basically organized all these things into a class, and it doesn't change anything, okay? They're just grouped into a specific class. So finally, I would like to cover how we run specific tests, okay? So here we've got our test, and we've just been running Pytest, okay? However, if you want to run one specific test, you can do it this way. So we're going to say Pytest, and then you're going to point to the path of the test. So you're going to say tests, and then ours is in unit, then it's in utils, and then it's test converter, all right? And this would run a whole file, okay? That's helpful, but what if you want to run a specific test, okay? You can put this here, okay? So I'm going to put the class, and you could run a specific class because you might have multiple classes in this file. However, you can go further, more specific, and you can specify one test, okay? And as you can see, we run one test. If you want to see more output, you can put the flag -v for verbose, okay? And here you'll get a few more details. And you can do this with all the tests. So here I'm going to say Pytest-v. And here we can see all the tests and their names, okay? I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like and comment on the video, as well as subscribe to the channel, as this helps the channel grow. I try to upload multiple videos every month, so if you want to get notified, please click on the notification bell so you can get notified whenever a new video is out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.